Zhangli, because my wife bought 2 buckets of Cold Stone.
Oh yeah?
And on top of that, I got that brand new video game. So when I get back to my house, it's like Cold Stone and video games. Oh my goodness, they're panties. Anyways, yeah, oh, so far on our trip, man, woo, the first day of our trip, that his bike's a rental, it wouldn't start, and it was like an electrical problem, and they checked the battery's voltage, and it was normal. It was like, it's a 12-volt battery. They checked the voltage, it was 12.8, and the bike had 0 electricity. Like, you couldn't honk the horn, nothing. And then the bike, oddly enough, it was the battery, and we thought it was a blown fuse for sure, because he turned the key, it came on, he pushed the starter button, it started to turn over, and then everything just went blank. Everything, like 0 electricity. So it had electricity, it had enough to turn over, and then it goes from having a normal amount of electricity to 0. So you're thinking, of course, it's fused, but evidently it was just the battery. It was weird. So we swapped the battery out, and that, it seemed like bad luck at the time, but it was actually good luck, because they'd been using that motorcycle, like that. It wasn't in storage or anything. It had been in use for that whole week, and then it decided to die completely when we were borrowing it. And that's good luck, because if we'd actually left with it, it would have died at some gas station, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and we would have been screwed. But it was nice enough to die at the shop before we started. So okay, so then I talk about some stickers on my Facebook channel. Okay, so we put some stickers on the bike, and then and we're like, okay, I hope we don't see any cops. And then sure enough, like within 2 minutes, like within 2 minutes, there was a check stop, but they just waved us through. So I was like, okay. And then we were like, whoa, that was a close one. We're both looking at each other, we're like nervous. And then, like, oh, 5 minutes later, another check stop. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to risk them letting us through again. So I turn off. As soon as you turn off, there's another check stop for idiots like me that turn off and show their guilt. Yeah, so I think I'll talk about more about what happened there on my private series. So that was so intense. I was like shaking. And then yeah, and then we wanted to leave, we wanted to leave Zhangli at like 6:30. We ended up leaving like 9:30, and it's like super late at night. It's dark out. There's no cars on the road. Stars are out, and we're just cooking it. And we fly all the way to our destination, and then yeah, and then I couldn't sleep. I guess I was excited about the trip or something, or I had a coffee that might have had something to do with it, but I couldn't sleep, so I ended up getting like 3 hours sleep. Anyway, and then the next morning we had to get up really early and then ride for 12 hours. And then we'll ride for 12 hours originally, and then we got to our destination, and this is the crazy part. We got to Kending, which was our destination on the second day, and there was no rooms. There was no hotels. Again, this place has like, there's about 50 hotels in this one small town, and every single one was fully booked. We found one room in the whole fucking place, and it was filled with these flying ants. Like, they were walking all over the beds and shit. So, so we're like, no. So I said, well, why don't we just, we've got like a shitload of riding to do tomorrow. How about we cut a couple hours off? Because we were in Kending. It was like, we started riding at 6 in the morning. We got to Kending at 6, 12 hours. And then we ate and stuff, and it was about 7:30. So, I said, well, why don't we just, you know, get some of tomorrow's riding done, because tomorrow we've got even more to do. But it was nuts, because we only had 3 hours sleep, you know, and we've been riding for 12 hours on 3 hours sleep. And then I'm like, well, why don't we do another 2-3 hours? And he's like, okay. And then, and then people were telling us, no, you can't, because when we left Kending, we had to do this like really windy mountain road, and they're like, that road is really dangerous. There's like huge potholes, trees fall on the road, rocks are always on the road for flying on the mountains, and at night you don't get enough warning. And the locals are telling us, like, the locals were saying we won't do that road at night. And we're like, it's okay, you know, we're going on 3 hours worth of sleep, we're fine. So we ended up doing that road, and it was funny. We got on the road. We do it for about 15 minutes, and it starts to rain, and we're both like, oh man, like we considered riding the 15 minutes back, like heading back, which would have cost us about 15 minutes back off that road, and then another 15-20 minutes looking for a hotel. Like, we considered it, and then we're like, no, let's just power on. And yeah, it was insane. I was hallucinating a lot yesterday, like a lot. Like I saw a cat run up my leg at one point when we were eating. I saw a cat like run up my leg, and there was absolutely nothing there. I was seeing spiders, insects walking, like every surface I would see, like not constantly, but every time I would look at a new surface, I would see things crawling around on it, and then I'd like blink and look again, and they'd go away. It was like fucking, like that's how exhausted I was. You know, I might as well have been riding drunk, you know. It's insane. And then, yeah, so then we did this like super dangerous road that the locals won't even do. And yeah, and well, but it worked out. But we had some other like crazy bad luck. Thought you were gonna blow through that light. I saw it. Oh yeah, this is it. Check out my fuel cap. Notice how it's all cruddy and weird? That's because you fucking pulled it off a broken scooter. Yesterday when we were riding during the day, my fuel cap fell off, and I didn't even, like, I don't know when it happened, but I noticed a weird smell, and then I looked down, and my boot was soaked in oil, the bottom of my pant leg soaked in oil, and worse yet, my rear tire on the right hand side, even though it's been like over 24 hours since I got oil on my tire is still noticeably darker one half than the other from being soaked in engine oil. So every right hand turn like this one, there's a chance my wheel could just slip out. A lot of fun this trip, but I don't know, I'm having fun. The harder the trip, the more I enjoy it, except for the oil. I don't like the fact that every right hand turner I take, I could, you know, like, I don't like it, you know, it's a fucking brand new tire. Anyways, it's like, shut the fucking video off, retard. I'm not showing it for you then. If you don't want to watch it, just shut it. It's the end of the fucking video. You can see there's only 10 seconds left after the, you know, when the outro starts, and then you look down, how time remaining. Oh, 10 seconds remaining. Chances are there's not nothing after this outro, so just click fucking off.